Well, I am here to introduce Senior Executive Director Kristen Wierenga from Seattle, Washington. And she is 95% virtual. She does an occasional show. She's been with Pampered Chef for 4 years, and in 2018, she personally recruited 55 people, and her personal team, without her personal recruits, recruited 71. Her organization recruited 490. So yes, get that, lots of cheers. She went from advanced director to executive director in a year, and then to senior executive director 9 months later. Of course, you guys recognized her on stage. She was our Circle of Honor recipient for promoting leaders in 2018. And she earned excellence in 3 categories. So Kristen is going to talk to you about strong recruiting. So take it away, Kristen.
Thanks, Kathy. I have to apologize because I had an important meeting after this that I could not reschedule. So I'm joining you from Starbucks and my phone to try and reduce some of the background noise. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. So I'm really excited to share with you guys about strong recruiting, but I had an epiphany in the shower last night. Does anyone else have that happen to them?
I do.
And I saw this, yes, I saw the PowerPoint slides ahead of time and I thought, this is not on them anywhere. And I'm going to go off topic for a second and pray home office staff do not kill me here. But I think it's so important that we and you guys, as you're looking at this goal, visualize what it is that you want to achieve, because you're going to get a ton of amazing ideas and skills that you can put into practice from this call today. But I'm going to tell you that 90% of you achieving this goal is mental. And being in the right mental space is going to help you skyrocket your results in these next 6 months. And so I wanted to share a couple of things really quick that I have done to help me achieve the success I have in Circle of Honor and achieving the trips I wanted to achieve and so forth. And so one of the best things that you can do for yourself is visually picture yourself achieving the goal. And that can be done through daily visualization, repeating positive affirmations of you actually achieving your goal. So one of the things that I have done is every night before I go to bed, I lay in bed and I just close my eyes and I get a picture in my mind of what it is that I'm achieving. And maybe for you guys, it is you stepping on that plane, boarding the plane to Paris with your husband, significant other, whoever. Like, you have to visualize yourself achieving that. That is a huge step in this. The other thing is positive affirmations. So maybe you set an affirmation that is like, I crossed the stage at national conference as the very next executive director, or we promote to an executive director team, or I board the plane with my husband by my side, Paris bound in the winter of 2020. These daily visualizations and repeating positive affirmations are going to be a huge step in this, and do them every single day as if your goal has already happened. That is so important. The other thing is avoid the comparison trap, because you're going to see all of these other people doing amazing things in this journey. And even I sometimes find myself comparing to others, and you have to stop, because it is going to drag you down and get you out of that mental headspace that you need to be in. So keep tunnel vision on what it is that you want to achieve. That's so important. Lastly, before I talk about recruiting, we promoted 15 directors in our org in 12 months. And that is 1.25 per month. If you times that by 6, because we have 6 months, that's 7.5 per month, 7.5 in 6 months time. So if you're sitting here, you have 1 director, you have 2 directors, or more, like, this could totally happen for you. And you have to see that for yourself and tell yourself that it's already happened. So let's talk about recruiting and your personal recruiting. So, and I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. Like, if you want to achieve this, you have to do something that you've never done before, or you have to grow in ways that you've never grown before, especially if you have a ways to go in the number of directors that you need to promote. If you're at advanced, and you still need a few steps, it's achievable, but you have to put your foot on the gas and all the way to the floor. Not just, oh, I'm going to go fast here. It's no, you need to do things that you've never done before. So if you say, I want to recruit 3 a month, that's a stretch goal for me. I've never done that consistently. Great. But I'm going to tell you, double that. double what it is that you want to do, because you have to lead the way and you have to show that way for your team. And you need a lot of recruits in order to promote the directors that you need. So you need to slam dunk your personal recruiting. And one thing that I would venture to guess on Steve's slide about systems is he also probably has a system for developing leaders. So booking, recruiting, host coaching, time management, and developing leaders. So you need systems for all of those things. But if you don't have the recruits in place, you don't have anyone to put into that next system of developing leaders. So all of us have systems, and we're taking people from one system to the next and another system to another system. So you get your personal recruiting where you want it to be, you have your pool of people, and now you can put them into your system of developing directors, okay? So if you don't have the people, you're gonna have a harder time achieving a goal that might be a stretch for you. So how do you increase your personal recruiting? I think a lot of us know what it is that we need to do to recruit, but maybe we are not doing it consistently or with intention. And it's things like asking your host 5 times, setting a goal of having at least 2 great in-depth recruiting conversations per party with guests, being intentional and being consistent. And what you can do is take every recruiting training you can get your hands on, everything in the planet that you can learn and grow from, like go take those trainings. Even just the other day, I was listening to the Ed Milet podcast. If you have not heard of Ed Milet, he's amazing. And he had a hypnotist on his show, and the hypnotist was talking about how to sell, and it was amazing, like mind-blowing information. It's like, go get your hands on the things that are going to take you from point A, where you are now, to point B or point C, that's going to help you stretch and grow that mental capacity. So asking your host 5 times, having those conversations with guests in the party. You should walk away from a party with 3 to 4, if not more, solid recruiting conversations. And your host could be included in that. But you should be tracking these number of recruiting conversations that you're having in a week and per party. And if you're not having enough conversations, dig into why. So are you not creating desire for the business opportunity in your party? Or are you doing that, but then, and you're having the one-on-one conversations, but maybe you're not finishing, and I hate closing the deal, but maybe you're not closing the deal. And maybe you just have folks who are sitting on the fence for too long and you need to work on your close. So A, are you getting the leads that you want from your parties? If you are, where is the breakdown happening in the conversations so that they're not signing? Or B, if you're not getting the recruiting conversations from the parties, then how can you fix that? How can you strengthen your story? How can you strengthen what you're showcasing about the business opportunity and creating that desire for it so that you then get the leads? So the other thing that is crucial is that you cannot be the only one recruiting, or you will not promote directors. So if you haven't already set a recruiting goal with your team, definitely set a recruiting goal ASAP for now, maybe through the end of August. I mean, you could pick the end date of whatever you really want it to be, but if you're striving for this big goal between now and then, like, it makes sense to do it for then. And you can make a new goal after that for like the second half of the year or the last 5 months or whatever that is. So I think it's really important that you are sharing this goal and then tracking the goal with your team. So let me back up for a second, because I want to explain what's on the slides here. So this is back to the party and creating desire. So one of the things on the right-hand side, you're going to see my post that I do. And this is like sharing a little bit more about my story. So I share what Paper Chef has done for my business, and then I have representation of that through photos. And if you don't have a story like I have, that's okay. Like, you need to be proud and excited of the story that you do have, and you need to create the know, like, and trust factor in your parties. So you want people to know you, you want them to like you, and you want them to trust you. And you do that through being authentic and vulnerable and sharing as much as you can possibly share with people. And so I do a lot of training on how to write a really effective story, but when you are thinking about writing your story in your party to create desire for the business, you should be sharing as much as you possibly can so that people feel like they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And if you share a story that's like, I signed up with Pampered Chef and it was great, and I've paid off my student loans or whatever it is that you've done, that's really boring. But if you say, I signed up with Pampered Chef because I love the products, I wanted to get them for free, and since then I've paid off my student loans, I've gone on free vacations, I quit my full-time job and got to be a stay-at-home mom, like whatever you share, now all these different people are going to relate to you. People who want to pay off their student loans are going to relate. People who want to stay at home with their family and be a stay-at-home mom are going to relate to you. People who love the product, want product for free, are going to relate to you. How can you share in all these different aspects and areas of your life that different demographics will relate to you in your story? That is so important. The other thing that you see here on the image on the left-hand side is the guess the envelope. So this is a game that started at cooking shows where there were different envelopes with paychecks in them and fake money in them. And I thought, this is fabulous. I need to do this in my virtual party. So I basically created a way to do that. So I have them guess the envelope. The envelope represents, you know, a consultant that's a Pampered Chef. And this particular one is mine. And so I share like, this commission check, you know, I did this many virtual parties, and you have to set them up. So you have them guess your check, but you have to lead them into it so they have an idea generally of what they're guessing. Otherwise they will way lowball or way highball. So kind of lead into that for them. And then I do share the answer with an image of my check. And this is crucial because now they see the financial opportunity. And if you don't have a check that is as big as maybe mine or Steve's or Claudia's or whoever's, like do an example of maybe yours, and then do an example of someone like Steve or myself or whoever. Like, I'm willing to share a paycheck if you need someone's paycheck to use. But when they see that you're making 6 figures with a business like this, like their eyeballs pop out of their head. So you share your heart, which is your story, and then you share the head part of it, which is the financial gain and the financial blessings that they can have from the business. Okay, moving on. So I just have so much I want to talk about. I get so excited. So as I mentioned earlier, you cannot be the only one recruiting or you will not promote directors. So it's super important, and this is the next slide, that you set a recruiting goal and then you share that goal with your team. And so on the right-hand side, you're going to see a post of what I share with my team. I bought these Mickey Mouse like cutout Mickey Mouse heads, and every new recruit has their name on a Mickey Mouse head, and they're getting plastered all over my office wall. And so that way, it's a recognition every single week as to who our new team members are, and it's keeping that in front of them all the time. You could even add to that post, you know, like our goal of 200 and we're at, you know, 50 or whatever. So just the idea is that you set the goal and you are sharing it and tracking it on a regular basis. And I do that weekly. And you can actually use the team roster report and consultant connection report to get the names of all your new recruits, and you actually just set the date for which you're wanting to just look at new recruits for. So if you're doing it on a weekly basis, you set the date for like last Monday, and it's going to give you all the new recruits for that week, so you can keep it updated regularly. The other thing that I implemented when we just had crazy explosive growth are this cash pot and the baby steps to recruiting. And I cannot take credit for these are someone else's ideas, but I did make really fun, cute images for them. So Baby Steps to Recruiting basically rewards your team members for doing little action steps and the behaviors that they're doing to try and recruit. So if you are just rewarding those who are recruiting, you're missing the boat. You should also be recognizing and rewarding those who are trying to recruit, because they're taking the action steps and eventually they'll get there. But these are the baby steps. And so things like listening to recruiting training, sending screenshots to their director, doing a 3-way call, asking their host about the business at least 3 times, like they get tickets, the drawing happens monthly, and then I just mail happy mail out to them. And I just have a thing in my office of like target dollar bin items, or like text stickers or things like that I can just easily pop in the mail for this. And so that's monthly. And then I also do the cash pot where they can win cash. And so every personal recruit that our personal team has, those people who recruit get a ticket into the drawing. And then every new team member that our personal team recruits, $2 goes into the cash pot. And so this cash pot builds. So if we had 10 recruits last month, $20 is going into the cash pot. Everyone who recruited gets a ticket into this drawing. And so we're rewarding the baby steps to recruiting, and then we're rewarding those who are actually recruiting. And so my own tickets go into this cash pot, and if I draw my own name, then I don't win the money. It's my money, but I don't win it. I let the cash grow into the next month. And so that way the desire for winning the cash grows as well. And we've had cash pots that are like $75, $100, and you just amp it up and make it a really big deal. And this is how you can get your team on board with and create that culture of recruiting among your team. As far as onboarding your consultants, definitely listen to the Nationwide Leader Call that I did this month and check out the call outlines that I posted in the Director Success page on Facebook. But when you're bringing on these new consultants, the key is getting them to book 6 parties in their first 3 weeks at a minimum, working closely with them for those first 3 weeks, cheering them on, just sharing your belief in them and working with them one-on-one until they qualify. And then also talking about Fast Track to Director on the very first training that you do with them. And then on the second training that you do, for me, these are phone calls. I ask if they want to go for directorship and for that extra $2,000 cash. And then I move them right into the Director Bound program after their first 2 to 3 weeks of business. So you have your system for bringing in your new consultant. And then now you have your system to take those folks, you've created desire for Director Bound or for the cash bonus, right? And then you move them into the next system, which is Director Bound. And so you're taking them through these systems, and that's where you can manage your time more efficiently because you're doing a lot of this in system work. So the other thing is teaching your consultants who are recruiting how to onboard. And so I give them the scripts and the resources that they need to follow along. I train their first recruit and they listen in and take notes. They train their second recruit and I listen in and give them feedback and suggestions. And then when they recruit their third person and beyond, 3, 4, 5, and whatever else, now they're on their own doing their own training. When you have explosive growth, there is no way that you can train every single new consultant in your personal team. You have to train them to do it themselves. And don't be afraid if they're not ready. Don't be afraid if they don't think they're ready. Like, your confidence in them and your belief that your new recruits who are now also recruiting can train their new people, like, they won't think any different if you're like, this is what we do. Like, this is what I'm going to teach you and you can do it and I believe in you, and they take it and run with it. And they can make it their own eventually if they want, but they need to learn your system first, learn how to do it, learn the results that we're looking for through the system. And then if they want to tweak the system later on, they can. But it's so crucial with fast-paced growth like this that you have to get people understanding your system and teaching them your system. So I just talked a million miles a minute and covered a lot of things. And they're like, you have 15 minutes. I'm like, I cannot go into all the depth I want to in 15 minutes. There's no way. So I really skimmed the surface on a lot of stuff, but I wanted to open it up for questions on anything I talked about, or I guess other stuff too, if you want.
Kristen, thank you. That's fantastic. And here, you guys probably heard some of the same thing. Systems was number 1, right? I also love that she empowers her team. She just pours her belief into them and really sets these high expectations. So we do have several questions. I'll just start with a few that are in the chat. And Becky was wanting to know the difference between the cash pot, I think, and the baby steps. And then she said each personal recruit and the new recruit. So both of those go in, right?
So anyone that's recruited on your personal team, then I put $2 into the cash pot. And then everyone who did in fact recruit, they get a ticket into the drawing. So that's how the money builds in the cash pot is $2 per personal team recruit. And then everyone that's recruiting gets a ticket into the drawing.
Okay, perfect. And the baby steps to recruiting, just to answer Becky, is actually listing what they get tickets for. And then the cash pot is about the reward.
They're two separate things. So the reward for baby steps is Happy Meal. So they're two separate drawings, two separate ticket pots, two separate drawings.
Okay, good. I hope that answers your question, Becky. Christina wants to know, are you doing Director Bound individually with each newbie that wants to promote, or are you doing it every 6 weeks with a group each time?
So what you guys are going to find is that each of us have different systems, but we find our own success with the system. So maybe what I'm doing is different than what Steve or Claudia or Becky is doing, but I do mine for my Director Rounds 4 weeks long. And so every month I am running something. So, and I don't do one-on-one. You can't scale with one-on-one everything. So you group people together. So for example, I'm starting a Director Round next month for March. And so any of my new consultants that said yes, they want the bonus and that I feel could go into that are going right into my Director Round. And it's a group together. And then something completely separate is the other month I do what's called a mastermind. And so anyone who has 2 recruits or more coming out of Director Bound, the very next month they're going into a mastermind, and that mastermind teaches them how to promote that month. So they get the Director Bound basic training, like in March, for example, and then anyone who is like the cream of the crop, they have 2 or more recruits from that. In April, they're going directly into a mastermind. So if you get your new consultant, give them a month to get their feet under their belt, get them in a Director Bound the 2nd month of business, get them in a mastermind their 3rd month of business. You're teaching them how to promote in that 3rd month of business, if not sooner.
Okay, great. And then the next question from Ashley Volmers, you mentioned the Nationwide Leader Call, that you posted something. Okay, so you also posted on the Director Success page, correct?
Yeah, I posted my call outlines and the Director Success. Just search for my name and it should come up.
Okay, perfect. All right, anybody want to ask a question? Go ahead and jump in and ask.
I know Tiffany asked, how is the Director Round condensed into 4 weeks? So I talk about bookings 1 week, I talk about host coaching another week, I talk about a very specific in-depth recruiting on week 3, and then week 4, I talk about time management, systems, consistency. But every single week of Director Bound, I'm talking about recruiting and some still related to recruiting. So week 1, we talk about how to ask the host about the business. So it's bookings, and then how to ask your host about the business. Week 2 is host coaching, and then how to create desire for the business opportunity in your parties, how to craft and share your story. So, so it's 4 weeks, a different one like topic, and then another recruiting topic.
Yeah, and you guys, when you look at the Nationwide Leader Call, you're going to actually see the slides. This is all written out for you. So I just click on the Leader Resource Center and go to the Nationwide Leader Call, and you guys can play that replay anytime. Okay, who else has a question for Kristen? You can just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question.
Hi, Kristen. I have a quick question. On your baby steps pick there, what are your people sending screenshots of, please?
They're conversations with recruit leads. So I'm super heavy on that. Like they don't know how to recruit. They have to learn how to recruit. And so sending these screenshots, I can give them the words to say back. And so I train them on doing that. They need to be doing that.
Thank you.
Great. Who else has a question?
Hi, Kristen. This is Mary Beth Knowles. I have a question. What is the outline for your mastermind in that 3rd month? Is it just basically a more intense Director Bound? And did you say that and I missed it?
It's actually more discussion focused. So the Director Bound is very like training focused, and the mastermind is more discussion focused. So it's things like, what are you doing right now to get bookings? What are things you're doing right now to get recruits? And so it's like peer-to-peer training, because now they're in a position where they're having their results. And so they're like training each other on what is working. So it's discussion led with me prompting. And then at the end, it's 5 to 10 minutes of strategy. And so the strategy might be like, how do we promote this? You know, how do you promote this month? And so every week I'm giving them strategy on that. So for example, if they have 2 recruits and they need 3 more, like it's a great goal to aim to have your other 3 signed by the 15th of the month, because then you have 2 full weeks at the end to help them become active. So that's just one example of a strategy we would talk about. Another strategy, if you're going into the month with 5 recruits already, it's great to aim for 25 bookings among your team, because then you know you're going to hit the 5,000 sales mark. So what are different strategy pieces that we can give them to teach them how to promote that month and just get in that mindset of I can promote this month, like Kristen's telling me I can, like belief, like, so I drive that into it as well.
Okay, great. All right, my gosh, well, we are actually out of time, unfortunately. But Kristen, thank you for sharing on strong recruiting. I think you've given people a lot of information. Definitely go back to the resource so that you guys can learn about onboarding. And I'm going to turn it over to, well, first let's give Kristen a big round of applause.